Greetings, YouTube. I found myself wondering if I had a copy of a specific game in a digital form so I could throw it on my phone. And I find the easiest way to transfer data onto my phone is just with the old school cable, just using my SD card as an external hard drive, essentially. And it makes it easy to transfer files back and forth and things like that. Uh, and it opened up my gaming folder, which is what I call it, and I discovered when I was transferring data from my old external hard drive to my current external hard drive that there are 43,000 files in my gaming folder. And while looking around for something specific, and I think it was the Star Wars D20 rules, I wanted to look at them again for something. And I found myself falling down a rabbit hole, and I'm currently poking at the D's. I've made it all the way up to the D's. And in the D section, of course, I've got D20, and under D20, D20 with a capital D, and under D20 is D20 with a lowercase d. And there are so many things in this folder. There are hundreds and hundreds of files. Some of them from gaming companies that I recognize, some of them from companies that only ever put out one product. There are companies in here that, there are things in here that are just a little bit more than, not much more than articles, like, for a magazine. Might be, 6 to 12 pages for an entire product. And that might be the only thing under that publisher. Or magazines that say, the name of the magazine, issue 1, and you definitely got the feeling that there was never an issue 2. Some of these things I found in these folders, they look like they were typeset. I don't know when they were made. I didn't check the date of the copyrights and stuff, but just it cracked me up because I'm looking at it and going like, wow, that I don't think they were emulating the typeset look. I think that was actually typeset. So it wasn't even done digitally. And I found some of the Buck Rogers folders, the Buck Rogers files that were literal, just physical scans of the books, because you can see the shadow where the page was. So yes, let's just say that some of these were acquired in less than conventional ways. I will not confirm nor deny that at some point in my life I may have been a fan of BitTorrent, but it fascinates me, the variety and the passion of our community. People just throw their hearts out there, and sometimes what they throw out just doesn't stick to the wall, folks. It just slides away into obscurity. And the artwork is a good example. Sometimes the artwork is just public domain images. Some of the artwork looks like it may have been liberated from somewhere else, and somebody did a picture of a woman for an illustration, and they just copied. Shoot, now am I blanking on the actress's name? Plays Natasha from Marvel. Yeah, no, I can't remember the actress's name. I apologize, but they just copied her face, and I'm just like, wow, that's her, which made me smile. But there's so much love in this stuff, and you know that whoever did it really thought they were doing something that someone else needed to read. Now, some of them are heartbreakers, of course. I own numerous fantasy heartbreakers in my collections, on my shelves, and in my digital. I particularly like the physical copies of those. Or people came up with a set of rules, and they developed them within their gaming group. So there was this intensely tight-knit group of people, and they created something that is a real hothouse flower. It doesn't really survive outside that very enclosed, safe environment. And when it gets out there, it just doesn't do well. There was one which was something Imperium, I think it was, and I owned a physical copy of it. And the kind of funny thing is that when I bought the physical copy, They had like 3 of them at the store, and I think that they had 2 of them at the store right up until they stopped stocking tabletop role-playing games. So I don't ever know what happened to those 2 extra copies. I took one of them home, but it was like the game had like 6 pages of helmets. 6 pages of the book. It was a hefty book dedicated to helmets. To this day, I was just flabbergasted. Now, it wasn't. A lot of these things are like so bad they're good, and some of them are just the same thing we've read 100 times before. In my case, I've got 1,000 copies of things. Not like literally adventures that do this thing or ideas that about, well, if magic was just taken this way, and the reality is that you're not taking it to a particularly new area, you have a little tweak, a little different here and there, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. I remember doing a review years ago. I think it was on Frank Trollman's House Rules, and I can't remember the name of the video, and I can't remember if I still have the file of his House Rules or where the hell I put it. If anybody knows, it was definitely about, I think it was 3rd edition House Rules. I don't think he wrote it about 3.5. And speaking of 3.5 and 3rd edition, a lot of the things I'm looking at, obviously this is all under D20, but a lot of the stuff I'm seeing, not just in this folder, but in folder after folder after folder, A all the way through D, exists because of the OGL that was released with 3rd edition, and then it, then it was, it updated to 3.5, and then Pathfinder had their own, SRD, let people to use their products within certain constraints. And it birthed so many things. Now, I know lots of them are not exciting. Some of them are bad. And again, some of them are just hot flowers that only really existed, or only ever should have existed as house rules at someone's table. But they're out in the world because somebody thought that an audience wanted to see it. And some of them were just generated for competitions, like 24-hour RPG competitions or one-page adventures, things like that. And they're kind of cool because you're getting to see a little snippet of someone's thought processes, how their design concepts come into play under a certain constraint, whether it's size and or time. But I find this stuff amazing, and I will still, to my dying breath, say that I think the OGL was the greatest gift that the RPG tabletop community ever received. I know there are people who hate it. I know there are people who despise it. But how many tabletop role-playing game companies exist today because the OGL was released and they were able to establish themselves as an entity that had an audience? Sorry, my cat making noises. And then they diverged from that further and further and further until now today in the year 2022. They're producing games that have nothing to do with the OGL. They're doing their own thing now. Maybe operating with their own system. Maybe it's borrowing, an SRD from another system. But they're doing a different thing. But the company exists because they were able to build the foundation of their business with the OGL. And that's just cool. I know I've put a copy of Dawnforge on my phone because I want to take a look at Dawnforge again. And Dawnforge was almost ran a runner-up for an official D&D setting. Eberron won, but one of the top contenders was the Dawnforge. And frankly, I found Dawnforge to be a heck of a lot more interesting than Eberron, but that's just me. But I want to take a look at it again. Why? Because I can. I love reading about these things. I love the ideas they generate. I like to see how many different people take up a similar concept and say, okay, what do I think about this? And it fascinates me. And I particularly like to read gaming material on my phone because there's no narrative. So I can read 24 spells and then walk away and come back the next day and read 24 more and come back the next day and then go read about some ancestries or some technological inventions for some science fiction game and stuff. And I can just pick it up, drop it down, pick it up, put it down, and there's no difficulty doing that. I can pick it right back up where I'm going from. At the moment, I'm looking at Persona Unleashed, which is the third iteration of the Persona game, and that's sort of Persona supplement. This one is for Pathfinder, and I'm enjoying myself. That's all that really matters. And it'll end up in a video at some point, someday, probably something a little more elaborate than this one. But I know that there are people here on YouTube who have gotten into the gaming community and gotten into the gaming industry because of their love and passion that they poured into their hobby. Some of them because of the OGL, some of them because they have a thing for another entity. Look at the Gentleman Gamer. He has thrown his heart into the whole World of Darkness and the company that produced it. And there are people out there who just have done long-term series talking about their experiences in the games. And it's cool, and it makes me happy. And it makes me feel proud to be part of that cadre to even the smallest degree. I know that I am but a blip on the RPG community on a global scale, even a blip on the YouTube community scale. But I've gotten conversations started, and I've shared stuff, and I've enjoyed myself in the process, and I've made friends because of it. And I'm glad to be here, and I'm proud that I think I have made some contributions to the RPG community here on YouTube. And I made contributions in the past on like the D&D news Usenet news group, which is essentially dead. There aren't really many of those things functioning anymore. I get occasional updates on some of them, but sometimes it's just spam. But once in a while, people will talk about things that are actually worth reading, but it doesn't happen often anymore. But all of that stuff is just cool. And I'm glad it's out there, and I'm glad I'm poking around and looking at it, and I'm thankful. And in some ways, I just want to say thanks to you folks in the RPG community here on YouTube, because you've helped generate ideas. Some of you have really and truly sparked thought processes that have led to new videos. And I'm always looking for inspiration, folks, because I'm a daily vlogger. I need inspiration sometimes. Alrighty, so let's talk about our love for the game and the passion that we have put into it and the passion that we have seen from others. And let's appreciate the love that has been poured into this, because that's what it is, man. This is a work of love and passion and camaraderie. And it's awesome, and I'm glad it's here, and I'm glad I'm part of it, and I'm glad you're here too.